Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to a brand new episode of LEGO Awards, the show where I count down my top 10 favorite and best things the LEGO Group did throughout the entire year of 2021. From minifigs to sets to entire themes, there was a lot that LEGO did this year. And as we grow closer to 2022, I figured why not celebrate this entire year's worth of LEGO by counting down these top 10 best things. So far, we've looked at the minifigures of 2021 from the collectible minifigures line, as well as the standard minifigures and retail sets. And we've also looked at the top 10 best non-licensed LEGO sets over $100. And so, this time we're going to take a look at the best top 10 licensed LEGO sets this year in 2021 that were over $100. The reason why I've split licensed and non-licensed is because I feel like it's important that LEGO does their own things, pursues their own IPs, and actually has successful projects outside of things already tied to existing media. But of course, one of LEGO's core competencies and strengths today are their branding and licensing tie-ins. And there have been a lot of fantastic sets from external IPs collaborating with LEGO to bring us completely new and radical set designs that we probably wouldn't have ever gotten unless LEGO had partnered with these companies. And so, without further ado, let's kick things off with number 10 on this list of the top 10 best over $100 licensed LEGO sets of 2021. Alright, so kicking off this list at number 10 is a frankly pretty controversial choice. Some people love him, some people, well, I don't know if they hate him, but some people just don't like him. These are the large-scale buildable Harry Potter and Hermione Granger figures, which retail together for $120. So, taking a look at these, let me explain why they're actually on this list. And that is basically because it boils down to the sheer amount of interesting and complex building techniques that went into this, and because they're a very unorthodox set that I feel does offer some value to LEGO collectors, not even just fans of Harry Potter, but just LEGO collectors in general, and it's something that I hope that LEGO continues to do, even a very similar build or similar scale for other stuff in the future. Be it superheroes where something this big is probably necessary, or even just some LEGO extended line products. If they did a standard minifigure like this, I feel like that would sell really well and be a fantastic display piece. So how do these work? So essentially, you have the heads, which are mounted on click hinges, so super simple there, just a clicking, rotating base, so nothing too out of the ordinary. However, the heads are expertly shaped. They did introduce a new piece, which technically is a part that can be made out of other parts, but it does have a unique print across it, and I do think it was necessary because we did need a full-on print for this, so that's why that new piece is there. Otherwise, this is basically just built out of standard LEGO pieces. And I'm really happy with especially the shaping on the head for the Harry figure here. I think the hairpiece works fantastically, truly looks like the actual LEGO hairpiece, just scaled up. And the same can even be said for the Hermione Granger one here. Unfortunately, despite actually having the ability to rotate her head based on this attachment here, you cannot actually rotate her head much like the actual LEGO figure because the hair locks it in place. So it definitely is accurate to that regard. I don't know if there was a better way to do it, but this definitely does look very accurate, right down to the fact that the back of the hair is actually sloped, which was a feature I did not even expect them to do, but this back of the hair is sloped. It's typically so that when you're putting the head of a minifigure in, it's so it can slide in. Obviously, this is built as one solid piece, so you don't actually ever have to put the head on. It just adds that little bit of extra authenticity to the build, which I feel is really fantastic. Especially if you look here, you can see from the bottom, it has this slow piece here, much like if you looked at the actual figure from that angle, it looks just like that. So beyond the heads, there's a very complex mechanism inside the arms to allow it to move the arms with friction, keep them at different poses, and not just have them flop down. It's not just being stuck on simple pins. There's a lot of really interesting engineering work that goes into this. Let me see if I can try to maybe open up the front of the chest and show you, because I was really impressed by the amount of detail that went into just designing something like this. So let's pry this open, and yeah, you can kind of see it right there, but there are a lot of little gears in there that allow you to have the friction being fully moving, and that is really surprising to me, and that's kind of what put it on this list, because the sheer amount of engineering effort that went into making something like this. So let's close up Harry's chest right here again. It's kind of a interesting build to see like that, and it's definitely something very unorthodox. We've never gotten a LEGO build like this pretty much ever, but I do hope we'll get stuff like it in the future because it's really great. Of course, moving on, we have actually articulation in the hands. These ones are just by using the friction pins, so it is able to be moved around. You've got the very accurate wands that can be moved around here. And of course, you also have leg articulation, which also has a lot of friction built in of its own via the Bionicle CCBS construction ball joints being used inside the legs just to add friction. And they do, again, work exactly as you'd expect Lego to work. They can sit down perfectly, like so, but they can't actually bend their legs back all the way, which is just exactly how Lego minifigs work. Honestly, you can look here. This is just like a standard minifigure in terms of articulation. So that's really cool to me. Of course, the Hermione figure is basically a carbon copy of the Harry figure, except just some very slight differences in detail. She has gray arms instead of black. She has a bit of a detailing on the leg here, which actually is not present on the actual minifigure to signify the skirt element. And of course, the head is completely different, but these prints are the same. Torsos are exactly the same. Interior build is the same. So that then begs the question, did it make sense to package this as a 2-pack and charge $120 for it? Or would it maybe have made a little bit more sense to, say, for example, just sell Harry for $60 or just sell Hermione for $60? And to be honest, I kind of wish they went that way, because if you pay $120 for the set, you basically are committing to own 2 of these. And not everyone necessarily wants to own 2 of basically what amounts to be the same exact identical build. Maybe some people have their own favorite characters, maybe someone wanted Ron. And I do think that there was a way that they probably could have done it such that they could have easily made a template for a Hogwarts student figure and just maybe had enough parts to swap out the heads. I don't know, do something to change around the cost or make it not as expensive, because as it is right now, you really have to buy into the concept of these large scale figures, because when you buy one, you're technically having to buy both of them. So at $120, I think the price is fairly okay. I think that $60 per each of these figures is a pretty fair price. Just bundled together, I do think could have been improved somewhat. The one thing I do really like is this large cloth piece being used for Harry's cloak. I just think that that looks really cool, and I do hope they actually do that on real figures, which actually cannot have cloaks like these. But with that, we can move on from these figures and take a look at our next spot on the list. And moving on to number 9, we have a set from the LEGO Super Mario theme, which surprisingly has really not typically yielded the best playsets because they essentially are just based around a massive board game. That being said, Bowser's Airship here, retailing for $100, is actually one of the best the line has to offer. It's a fully detailed airship that could honestly just pass for a regular boat as well if you swap out the massive propellers, and it definitely has a very fun and unique design to it with a very unique color scheme. A lot of classic LEGO pirate ship colors have been recolored for this particular set in the dark nougat color, which is really nice to see, definitely very useful for just making other ships and whatnot, and of course having a color scheme of the light gray as well as the dark red with some transparent blue highlights actually does look really good. But this set is really cool because it actually hides a bit of a transformation feature, because obviously you need to have some sort of a board game element to make it a Super Mario set, but this seems pretty compact. Or does it? Because you can actually lift up the front and back of the boat, and as you can see here, the entire thing splays outwards. Despite being very short and stocky and compact, this all fully comes out, and you have quite a lot of things you can do here, from tapping certain things here and there, playing with the actual Mario or Luigi figures, and all in all just getting all sorts of different fun play along this set. Let's take Luigi here, for example, and fire him up. One thing that you can immediately see is that you can place him on this cloud element here. And what's really cool about that is that you can kind of use him to steer this hand around, and if you manage to make him hit the target piece, which you can see right there, hit the target, the hand will actually just come right off because it's a very simple setup. The massive grabber hand will just fall off onto the ground, and then you can see it's specifically been built to fall on the face upwards portion, so you can actually use the Luigi figure to stomp on it and gain a certain amount of points, as you can see right here slightly sped up. Moving onwards, you can see that there also is a little bit of a pilot in the pilot seat here. Jumping on this little POW box will allow you to push the pilot and eject him from his seat, and also defeat him as the enemy, and then take over and commandeer the ship as your own. So you can see here that you can actually place the Luigi figure in the ship itself. A bit of a suggestion of a steering wheel also comes up with a great parts usage of one of the decal detail elements, and all in all, this is a pretty fun build that you can actually do a lot with and play with the Mario Mario system, as well as fully close up and just act as a good playset as well, which honestly I think is something that Super Mario is missing as a LEGO theme. A lot of the sets are fairly fun if you actually get into the game, but it does get very repetitive to just smash things over and over again, and so it is really nice to actually get a build that actually looks somewhat decent on its own, and without any of the extra stuff that essentially just makes it look like a board game rather than an actual play set. Additionally, for $100, I actually feel like this is pretty fair. Obviously, the electronic Luigi or Mario figure is not included, you do have to get that separately, but I'm actually fairly happy with the look and feel of this entire vessel, and it definitely looks like something really fun to swoosh through the air and actually use as a large-scale play ship. So, very happy with how this looks, and with that, we can now probably move on to number 8. And coming in at number 8, we have one of the LEGO Ideas sets. This is the Home Alone house for $250. Now this immediately, as you can see, is a fully detailed, almost dollhouse style LEGO set, which is absolutely packed to the brim with different scenes from the movies, all sorts of different fun details, and as we rotate it towards the back, you can even see it has some extra details in a whole other compartment along the back as well, to represent some added detail to the basement floor, as well as the back entrance of the house here. So removing that and putting that back on, let's take a look at some of the side stuff we have here. You can see it comes with the treehouse as well as the van the wet bandits or the robbers used. You can look in the van, it's a pretty nice, just fairly simple build. Not really something that's too special, but I do like the sand blue color scheme as well as some nods to the movies themselves. But obviously the main attraction is the house. What's really nice is that you can remove the roof and second floor of the house so you can really get inside and actually play around with all the details within. Let's do that right now. So going into the ground floor here, you can see we actually have a play feature. Twisting this Technic knob on the side here actually allows you to turn the train alongside a cutout poster of a basketball star, just like in the movie, to make it look like someone else was walking around the house, which is a pretty fun detail. And also hooked up to this gear mechanism is this little record player here, which also twists and turns very nicely as well, and features a nicely detailed dark brown wig. Behind there you can see a very nicely built up clock with full detail, as well as all sorts of different Christmas-like elements scattered throughout, as well as one of my favorite Easter eggs in the set, which is a replica of the actual box for the Home Alone set hidden underneath the Christmas tree. While the Christmas tree itself is fairly simple and honestly just kind of looks like something you'd see in a poly bag, there are still lots of other details to find here, including another action feature on the top of the stairs here. There's a bit of a sled here that you can use to topple down the bandits. Pushing the very simple Technic actuator on the back can allow you to push the sled down, right down the stairs. Super simple, but just a fun play feature to have in general for something like this. There are some extra details along the sides of the house, including a look at the Eiffel Tower in Paris, as well as the buildings in Manhattan and New York, which is a reference to the Home Alone Lost in New York movie. Moving on backwards, also on this kind of first floor area, you'll notice this back outhouse area here, which is kind of an extension of the kitchen. What's really fun is that you may notice that they have a lot of different details and nods here, but separating this out, it actually does have a full basement as well, where if you twist the knob, you can actually cause the iron to fall down, and there actually is a corresponding face print on one of the bandits. You can see he has the imprint of the burned iron on his face, which is a little bit of a somewhat graphic detail for a LEGO set, but something that definitely looks very funny and definitely fits up with the movie as well. In the basement itself, there is a bit of a light brick that is tucked away and very hidden. It honestly isn't really doing much here, but it does work very well. I mean, if you do actually open that up, you can see the light inside, but I do kind of wish the light was used somewhere else among the build. What this also introduces is a brand new LEGO mold. This is a door with a cat or dog door underneath, which is just using the standard LEGO container lid piece, but is actually a brand new mold with a triple window as well. But then we can now move on to the second floor, so looking at the top and opening up these sides here, you'll notice that this is packed full of detail with a bathroom, middle living room area, as well as stairs leading down, plus a bucket that you can drop on the burglars' heads here. And then moving onwards, you can actually see the bedroom, the main bedroom for the kid right here. What's really fun is that this does also have a play feature. You stack some things up on the shelves, and all you need to do is pull this lever out in the back, and they all topple over like so, including some of the firecrackers. Super simple mechanism, just allowing the shelves to be pushed up, but something that does work fairly well. Although it is somewhat annoying because if you do actually just want to keep them in place, it's just very hard to do that because there's just a smooth surface and nothing connected to studs.
Moving from there, we can take a look at the master bedroom. I really like the way the beds are actually built up, showing the sheets actually kind of tucked away to the side here. And then we can now move on to the roof. So opening up the roof here, you can see that we also have a fully detailed section with a battle plan, which actually is replicated on the cover of the instructions as well, which is a very nice detail, as well as a bed on the top too. And with that, we have basically summed up the Home Alone house, and this is a pretty fantastic build for what you get. For around $250, I think it's probably the most detailed LEGO house we've gotten. It definitely could fit in well with just standard LEGO City stuff. It doesn't even necessarily need to be tied to Home Alone, and it's just really a fantastic looking house build in general. Now that being said, there are a few details that I think some people, myself included, would feel like would be possibly a better way of doing things. For instance, the roof of the house in the movie is actually not supposed to be white, it's dark gray, and it only turns white when the snow falls. The white roof is supposed to represent the snow, but it definitely does kind of feel a little bit strange because there wasn't really any attempt to make it look like it was snow falling on the roof. It really just was built up with pure white brick. So that is something that is generally kind of a bit of a complaint, although I will say for $250 you get probably the most detailed build that you can possibly get for a LEGO style house, which is really great to see. And with that, we can now move on to number 7. And for number 7, we have an entry from the Ultimate Collector Series line of LEGO Star Wars. This is the fan-voted, much-anticipated LEGO UCS Republic Gunship, retailing for $350 US. Now, in case you don't know, this was actually the winner of a fan vote decided on LEGO Ideas. There was a vote to pick the next Ultimate Collector Series Star Wars set. From this, a Nebulon B frigate, as well as the TIE Bomber, and the Republic Gunship won by a long margin. Now, when this first was announced, a lot of people were actually wondering how a Republic Gunship would work for the UCS scale, because a lot of people honestly probably just wanted another minifigure scale gunship. That being said, this absolutely does justice to the Episode 2 Attack of the Clones appearance of the gunship, and you can see it flying alongside some of the other older LEGO gunships like the 2008 Clone Wars one, as well as the 2013 Episode 2 version, which was honestly the latest one we got in LEGO form, which actually has been quite a long time. So really nice to get this. Also could kind of be tied into the Clone Wars as well, although of course with those you have a few small changes with the removal of the pods on the side. Now this is fully detailed up. I do really like the way these side doors work. You can pull them open and shut. You can also see that this has a lot of detail packed in, such as the rotating guns on the top of the vessel itself. Just all sorts of fun detail packed within this absolutely incredible display model. And really, the only thing keeping this somewhat lower on the list is, for one, the price tag of $350 is, as it usually is with a lot of the licensed stuff, I feel a little bit high for what you get. It is a fantastically detailed and large build, but maybe not necessarily worth $350, as well as the fact that on the backside in particular, there's actually quite a few exposed studs that honestly feel a little bit out of place on a high display model like this. Oh, and there actually are a few mistakes and typos in the UCS plaque, which really shouldn't happen nowadays. You can look into that if you want to, but really, I probably would have expected better from a Ultimate Collector Series set, where the facts in the plaque probably should be fact-checked first before actually making it as an official LEGO set. That being said, zooming outwards, this truly has been a long time coming. A lot of people, myself included, were really excited to get a UCS Republic gunship, and the model certainly does not disappoint. But with that, we can now move on to number 6. And for number 6, we actually have something from the LEGO Disney Princess line, which typically doesn't actually put out large-scale adult-style sets. While this definitely was not an 18+ set, in fact it was closer to the younger age range, the Frozen Ice Castle retailing for $200 is truly one of the most spectacular display models of the entire year. Introducing the brand new opalescent and translucent blue pieces, which truly look incredible on this display model. This is truly a monument to the Frozen Ice Castle, and something that I never would have expected LEGO would have made as a large-scale set. One thing I really love is the inclusion of a ton of new molds in the set, which really make up all of the icy details, and actually could kind of call back to some of the original molds they used for some of the classic LEGO space lines, particularly in the very strict icy geometry. From top to bottom, this model is packed with details, and especially as you move onwards to the back here, you'll notice that even the interior is fully detailed as well. Starting from the bottom, you can see the majestic staircase, also using the opalescent, translucent kind of effect for the staircase here, as well as specialized and detailed minifigures featuring the long capes or the mini dolls here. Moving upwards, we have the bedroom area or the throne area. with some references to the movies, some mini builds, and a lot of just different prints and stickers, as well as a reintroduction of the LEGO Elves Hourglass piece in tan this time, which is really great to see dual molded with tan and clear. Moving upwards, we have this top bedroom area, as well as a little bit of a cupboard on the top here. You can open up the cupboard for some more Easter eggs scattered throughout, but all in all, this is not just a nicely detailed display model, but it also is a really great play model with an excellent interior as well. Honestly, this is something that rivals even the Disney Castle in terms of being a truly complete and incredible build, and definitely something that looks really good next to the Disney Castle as well. A lot of the details I really love, especially the mini dolls in particular, are done really well, particularly with the effects on the capes, which definitely does stand out and make the set feel very, very special. All in all, from new molds to new colors to all sorts of recolors, this is fantastically detailed. And honestly, I do think it probably could have been even more improved if they made it an 18+ set, but it's not a huge deal, and it already looks truly incredible as a LEGO model. There's not really too much else I can say about this other than I would highly recommend it as a LEGO build. There's a lot of interesting studs on the side construction, unique pieces, building techniques, and all in all stuff that comes together to form a very satisfying and beautiful final product. And for $200, given the amount of recolors, new molds, and how big this model is, I think $200 is pretty fair. And with that, we can now move on to number 5. And for number 5, we have a set from the LEGO Marvel line. This is from the Infinity Saga sub-theme of sets, going back and revisiting some older LEGO sets and ships and stuff that they either never made for the movies before or felt like they could do a better job. The model in particular is the Guardians ship from Avengers Infinity War. It retails for $150. And here you can see it flying alongside all of the other versions of the Guardian ships, including the different Milanos, as well as the original version of the ship, which was actually released back in 2018 for the movie. This, however, is a massive upgrade, because of course it is much more screen accurate, with the biggest change being the large montrails, or the large kind of booster engines on the back here, as well as a fully detailed interior that actually rivals some of the Ultimate Collector Series Star Wars models. Moving onwards to our review studio here, you can see it all fully lit up in the stand, and it does look really great on the stand itself, which definitely can get some really fantastic angles. And even if you don't want to hang it up, the stand itself is one of the best I've seen because it features a full turntable, so you can really get a lot of different angles out of it. Of course, rotating this around, you can see the engine booster packs in the back of the vessel do look absolutely fantastic. Really love the amount of detail here, as well as the fact that a new piece was introduced. You can see this kind of 2-length LEGO bar piece, which is really fantastic for building, especially with construction mocks. But of course, opening up on the interior, you'll notice that there is a lot of detail packed into here, including a coffee machine, a lot of seating space, just some greebles on the sides of the walls, and just a lot more detail than you would expect from something like this. Really happy with how the interior turned out, and honestly was very surprised to see it, because it's not really normal that something like this would have so much detail, particularly for a play-scale set. Even the cockpit itself is fully detailed with a lot of different stickers as well, and all in all, this is truly one of the best screen-accurate designs for a LEGO Marvel vessel. It's just very satisfying to see this put together, and really shows how far LEGO has come with just a few years in between to refine their designs. And for the retail price, $150 may seem a little bit on the expensive end, but I think that maybe this one is a little bit fair. It's not necessarily as good as some of the other entrants on this list, which is why it's not closer to the top, but I think it's generally okay, given that typically a lot of the licensed Marvel stuff can be more expensive than standard sets. This does feel alright to me. And so moving onwards, we can move on to number 4. And this is technically in the LEGO Creator line, which is not a official LEGO license line. However, this is the NASA Shuttle, which has been licensed by NASA. So it definitely counts on this list. Starting off, this is absolutely hands down the best space shuttle LEGO has ever produced, basically ever. You can see pretty much all the other space shuttles they've made hanging alongside this, and this truly just blows all of them away. Not only that, but it also features the Hubble Space Telescope in full drum-lacquered silver detail, looking absolutely fantastic and incredible, and something that you can actually fold up and place within the space shuttle itself if you want to open up the bay doors. What's really fantastic about the build for this model in particular is just how sleek and smooth it looks, and honestly, from a distance, it doesn't even feel like LEGO, which is a good thing when you're actually looking at a display model like this. It really just comes together truly fantastically. To do this, it actually did have to introduce a few new molds on the top of the cockpit as well as the opening bay doors, but they definitely get the point across, and those molds are already very useful and already cropped up in some Ninjago sets as well. Moving onwards to the back, you can see a lot of detail in the booster engines, some interior detail on the cockpit, and really just comparing it alongside all of the other spacefaring LEGO vessels, this just completely blows them away as one of the best detailed LEGO models they've ever made of a real-life vehicle. The free gift for purchasing the shuttle was the Ulysses space probe right here, although you did also have to spend VIP points on it if I recall. Kind of a debacle with that one. It's also not really that great of a build, feels a little thrown together, but of course the main attraction is the NASA space shuttle itself as well as the Hubble telescope, both of which do not disappoint in the slightest. And for $200, this has one of the best values of any of the sets on this list, and I am truly impressed by how much detail and accuracy they were able to pack into the set without making the price go to completely astronomical rates. And so that makes me very happy with this as a model, as a display model, even as a play model, and it's something I would highly recommend. But then we can now move on to the top 3. And for number 3 on this list, we have something from the LEGO Harry Potter line. This is the LEGO Harry Potter Hogwarts Icons Masterpiece build, and this is truly one of the most unique LEGO display models ever produced as an official set. And the story behind this is actually pretty interesting, because it didn't even start off as an official set. The Hedwig model was something a LEGO designer was tasked to create as a promotional display piece, and they figured it was a good enough model that they could actually make it an official LEGO set and just build a ton of extra stuff around it. And that's how this year's 2021 LEGO Harry Potter direct-to-consumer set was made. Obviously, the centerpiece of the set is the Hedwig model, which is truly the best and most detailed recreation of any sort of animal LEGO has done pretty much ever, I want to say, as well as some fantastic detail on the letter as well, with the printed letter and brick-built books, which look very realistic. One thing that's really cool about this is that every single part of it is supposed to be life-size, so pretty much you would expect that almost in the movie, or you could treat it as movie props themselves, everything is supposed to be the size that they were in the movies. So the books, the wand, the chocolate frog, the golden snitch, the potion vials, and yes, the glasses.
And while they are a little fragile, they actually are appropriately scaled to fit on a human face.
All human scale, which is really cool to see. And I do actually really like it when LEGO does human scale stuff like this, because it just feels like you're building in a different medium and making something truly unique. They did introduce a few new molds for this, including the tops of the potion bottles, which already are becoming very useful as the half-hemisphere dome pieces here, and you can see all sorts of incredible detail packed in. Some of the detail are stickers, but a lot of them are prints as well, which really adds to the deluxe feeling of the set, and I do really like the unique drum-lacquered elements on the golden snitch here, as well as the recolor for the pearl gold hot air balloon elements. Hedwig the owl can actually be articulated on each of the wings of the feathers here, which looks really realistic and actually really accurate. They actually did a brick-built Hedwig before, but this kind of blows the other one out of the water. The other one was also something that was more of a mechanical sculpture that flapped the wings, so I definitely understand why this one would be a lot more detailed, but it just is truly incredible to see so much detail packed into a LEGO model like this. You can even see the speckles in the fur and the aspects of Hedwig all the way on the back of the model here, so just all sorts of very realistic detail and something that is truly amazing. And for $250, you get a lot of things here. This definitely isn't for everyone. I know not everyone is a fan of the large human scale builds, but honestly, I think that even if you're not a fan, this is just one of the most unique and intricate LEGO builds that you can get on the market today, featuring building techniques that have never and probably will never appear in any other LEGO set again, and something that is truly unlike any other LEGO set out there on the market. But there are still 2 more entries on this list, so with that, we can now move on to number 2. And with number 2, we have a very realistic LEGO skyscraper model. This is the Daily Bugle from the LEGO Marvel's Spider-Man line. So the Daily Bugle newspaper is the famous newspaper that Peter Parker works at under J. Jonah Jameson in all the Spider-Man movies as well as the comics, and this features a ton of minifigures, including a ton of fan favorites, as well as some excellent printed detail featuring a lot of different Easter eggs to the comics and the movies. Starting off, you can see a newsstand on the floor here referencing Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, Fingers crossed he's going to make a major appearance depending on the time that this video actually comes out. He may have already appeared in Hawkeye, so really hoping he does that, but at the time I'm recording this, he has not appeared yet, although the rumors say he will be coming back. Really cool that LEGO did throw in an Easter egg for Wilson Fisk there and the Daredevil roots. Obviously, you have a fully brick-built Sandman here, which does look really great. I love the Sand Tornado, very intricate. And obviously, moving upwards, you have a lot of different Easter eggs to the comics as well, including a lot of different stickers on the sides of the building to actually showcase the newsreel. One of my favorite details of this massive skyscraper is the exploding window. Not only does it tell a fantastic story featuring the Green Goblin bursting forth from the window, but it also includes all of the parts to build the window as normal. So if you wanted to, you could actually just build it as a normal window and not have the exploding feature, if you just want to make this fit in better with a normal LEGO city, which I think is a really great thing and a really cool detail because they definitely did not need to do that. Obviously, moving on the top, we have an excellent brick-built sign, but really, this is just a big gray skyscraper, and all the detail comes when you look on the inside. So let's do that. Opening up the panels here, you'll notice it's very easy to look inside. It has a lot of fantastic detail, including, again, more references to classic Spider-Man material, like the Spider-Man No More comic webpage here you can see on the side of the newspaper, as well as just all sorts of different newspapers prints scattered throughout. Moving on to the top floor and the bottom floor here, you can see that you can actually open up the side of the wall here, kind of cause an explosion, and look inside the ground floor, as well as take a peek at the elevator and all the details there. Peter Parker's backpack is hidden in a little nook and cranny on the back of the building, which is a very fun detail, which definitely makes sense in regard to the movies, and you even have a sliding glass door that opens and closes very nicely. Now, of course, you can actually remove the exploding window very nicely as well, although that one you do have to be a little bit more careful with while removing. And you can see a reference to the classic Spider-Man meme where he's sitting at the desk with a picture of himself behind it. Very funny that LEGO actually included that in the set, as well as just some more office space and building area. Moving upwards to the top floor, you have J. Jonah Jameson's desk himself on the pinnacle penthouse of the Daily Bugle, as he should be, with some artifacts and more Easter eggs scattered throughout the building here, as well as just different places to put minifigures all around the building, like the spider car on the side here. What's also really great is that you can separate each floor from the other, so not only can you remove the windows, but you can actually get a top-down view of the interior of the building, including, as you can see here, a vending machine as well as different Easter eggs, including a Morbius Easter egg to kind of tie in with the Morbius movie that's coming out. But with that, we can probably move on from this fantastic LEGO skyscraper. For $300, this is something LEGO has never done before, and again, probably never will do again. I do realize I keep saying this, but this year does really feel filled with very unique LEGO builds, and this is one of the most unique. But with that, we can now move on. But before we get to number one, I do want to make an honorable mention on this list. So in 2012, LEGO released the Ultimate Collector Series Batman Tumbler. And that was one of the best Batman sets ever, featuring detail that frankly was ahead of its time, and some of the most intricate building techniques possible for a set of that time. And now this year, LEGO actually re-released the Tumbler. For $230, you actually get a very slightly upgraded build, but to be completely honest, it's really just a re-release of the old one with just a few things changed and a few extra details added. The designer of the set actually stated on the brick set listing that he specifically was told that his brief for redesigning the set was just to re-release it as normal, but he felt like there were a few major details he wanted to change before re-releasing the set, so despite having a very short time period to do so, he was able to add in a lot more details like the glass door at the front, as well as change the size of the back tires to be slightly more accurate. That being said, this is still a set that technically 90% of it is just something that already came out years ago. And that's really the only reason why I'm not including it on this list. If this was a set that was completely original that came out this year for the first time ever, this absolutely would have made the list. But unfortunately, given that this is something that is officially kind of a sort of remake, re-release of the original model, I definitely don't feel like it deserves a spot on the best sets of 2021, particularly because it isn't really even a set from 2021. So there you have it. That's why I wanted to mention the Tumbler as an honorable mention, but definitely not as something that deserves a spot on this list. But with that, we can now move on to the best set of 2021. In my opinion, we have The LEGO Star Wars Ultimate Collector Series, AT-AT or Hat-At Walker, this is one of the best LEGO Ultimate Collector Series sets pretty much ever, and a build that is truly one of the best that LEGO has ever done. So obviously you can see here that this is absolutely massive. Retailing for $800 US, this is the same price as the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon, and it really does feel like one of the most colossal builds yet. What's really great is that even the interior of this is packed full of detail. You have the working guns in the front, and opening up the top cockpit here, you can see seating space for figures as well as some details and stickers and whatnot. Moving onwards even to the side here, you'll notice some speeder bikes stored inside the AT-AT itself, as well as a fully opening troop deployment hatch, which you can actually use to deploy snowtroopers onto the Hoth terrain. I really like the immense amount of detail that's just been packed in here. You can actually see it features the exactly correct amount of seats in universe for the snowtroopers to be stored inside this vehicle, which is a great attention to detail. And speaking of the figures, it does include quite a few snowtroopers as well as some brand new pilots, plus a Veers with dual molded legs and Luke, which does look really nice. Obviously though, the build is the star of the show. You're not buying the UCS AT-AT for just the figures. And with that, you'll notice that the back of the display plaque here actually has a bit of a screwdriver LEGO element. And what this is used for is to actually change the articulation of the legs, which makes this a really stable model, but also something you can pose, which is something I was really curious as to how LEGO would handle this, given that this is such a heavy model, something that really definitely you don't want the legs buckling under. This is the perfect solution because the legs are all mounted on gears, which means you have to use the screwdriver to turn them or else their articulation is fixed, which I think is a great way to solve the problem of creating a massive display model like this, and something that truly is a unique solution for a LEGO build. Of course, this will look fantastic on any shelf, and really, the only downside to this is, of course, the price. $800 is definitely very, very expensive. This is not the kind of set you pick up on a whim, and to be honest, maybe I do think that you probably got a little bit better value for your money with the Millennium Falcon, especially because that was a much larger and more compact build. This is, of course, very large, but it does feel like there is a lot of empty space in it as well. But that being said, I do understand the $800 price point. It does make sense to me given a model of the scale. I would have been happy with $750 or $700 for sure, but $800 feels okay if not a little overpriced. That being said, I truly believe that this is the best licensed set LEGO had to offer this year. It's clear a ton of development effort went into this. I am absolutely blown away by the amount of detail and also the amount of playability in the final result.
Alright, and with that, we have taken a look at my personal list of the top 10 best over $100 licensed LEGO sets of 2021. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I'd love to hear yours. So let me know down in the comments below, do you agree, do you disagree, or do you think I was missing any good sets that should have made it on this list? Of course, thank you all so much for tuning into Duckbricks, and I really enjoy your viewership. Definitely stay tuned for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and stay tuned for the next LEGO Awards episode. Until then, I'll see you soon, and bye-bye for now.